The Bills not necessarily had fun this week, but they did something they felt like they needed to do in moving on from Stefon Diggs. There was a development yesterday, which was kind of surprising. Now, when the Texans acquired the Stefon Diggs contract for $18.55 million this year, I thought, okay, what are they going to do with the rest of the Stefon Diggs deal? Are they going to give him a raise? Is he going to want a raise? Is he, how do you set the right mood for this guy on the way through the door? Because one of the things we talked about yesterday, Myles, the Texans need to get to a spot early where they've got the relationship just right with Stefon Diggs. Diagnose whatever it is that's gone wrong with him in Buffalo and Minnesota and work your way around it and make him happy. Make him want to be there. Make him want to give his all. And so what they did, they tore up the balance of the contract after this year. Gave him a little more money this year. He's up around 22-ish from 18.55. And he walks away, if he wants, in 2025 as a free agent or hits the market, negotiates a better deal somewhere, stays with the Texans, whatever. He can do whatever he wants after this year. So he's got a full incentive to have a big year because he's not saddled by the remaining years of his contract. And I look at that and I say that makes a lot of sense. But why are you giving up a second-round pick for that? You're giving up a second-round pick next year for a guy who may not even be on the team. It's a gutsy move by the Texans, and maybe it speaks to a level of confidence that they know he's going to want to stick around, and they'll work it out. And, even if he has 1,500 yards and he becomes a hot commodity, they'll work out a way to keep him.
Well, but I think it also just speaks to the fact that they know they've got a young elite quarterback, and so it's not necessarily that you can set money on fire, but you do have money to burn when your second overall pick QB has proven that he can go out, win a division for you. He can go out, win a playoff game for you, and Joe Flacco obviously helped that effort by throwing 2 pick sixes in a row for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not bitter about that at all. But I think when you look at it from a holistic standpoint, you see that the Texans are a team that's on the rise. And when you have a quarterback who's not even extension eligible until after, not this season, but next season, that allows you the flexibility to go out and do some things that you might not otherwise be able to do when it comes to the salary cap and the contracts and all of that. So I think it's a move that you can make when you get your number 2 overall pick correct, right? When you get your head coach correct, when you are able to bring in an offensive coordinator and Bobby Slowick who does a good job, and then you are able to keep him for that next season. It's just all of those things, I think, combined together to make it so that you can go out and get a Stefon Diggs and give away a pick that is not even your second round pick, right? Like that's Minnesota's second round pick. So it's almost a bonus. And so that's another aspect of this that I think plays in Houston's favor.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to view it that way, though. Once it's your pick, it's your pick. And they got that pick by doing an arm's length trade with the Vikings, giving up their 23rd overall pick in this year's draft. So there was a cost involved, and it did come from their pocket at some way, just indirectly. I have a hard time reconciling all of it. We want Stefon Diggs. He's under contract for 4 more years. We're going to allow him to become a free agent after this year. Like, if you have to do that to make a guy happy, you better be sure he's going to be great. You better be sure that this is the magic elixir that's going to allow him to be a high-end contributor, not get upset, not be... And, I saw Tim Graham of The Athletic, who's been covering the Bills forever, and you can sense the swirls and the whirls of the Bills' fingerprints on his take. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying this is what happens. When you cover one team and a move like this happens, the team's perspective makes its way into your interpretation and your analysis of the situation. And the word he used was microaggression regarding Stefon Diggs' treatment of Josh Allen and the Bills. And that's really, there were some flare-ups from time to time, but a lot of it was just little things that he's a great player and you just deal with it. And they got to the point, I think, where there was just so many of these little things, it was just time for the Bills to do something big. And, things that at the time, I remember we talked about them on this show, and you move on to the next topic because it's happening in the middle of football season. But after that Monday night loss to the Broncos, and his brother Stefon Diggs starts tweeting, my brother needs to get out of there. This is why he needs to get out of there. And Stefon Diggs never repudiates what he says. Like, that's just something that will stick in someone's craw. Why don't you come out and say, that's not what I believe, instead of saying, well, that's irrelevant, or it's my brother and I love my brother. Like, why don't you just say, he's just having fun. I don't believe that. He doesn't speak for me. I don't talk to him about these things. See, I remember saying, well, of course he's picking these things up from his brother and saying these things. And unless Stefon comes out strong shooting this down, you get the impression Stefon doesn't want to be there. So there may have never been one moment where Stefon Diggs says, I want out of here, like he kind of did with the Vikings. It was just an accumulation of a year or two of little things that come together and result in the Bills doing something big and dramatic that, for people who don't pay attention to it every day, are going to be shocked. I'm sure there were plenty of people who were like, holy crap. But if you follow it every day like we do, it's like, okay, this was inevitable.
I don't know if I would go with inevitable, but I think it's a logical conclusion to a story that, spanned for 4 years. And when Stefon Diggs and the Bills got together, when he and Josh Allen got together, it was like a match made in football heaven, right? I mean, he led the league in not just catches, but also yards in 2020 as the Bills were able to advance to the AFC Championship game. And they've just never been able to get past that, right? They've never even gotten to the AFC Championship game since that 2020 season. So then when you look at the fact that Stefon Diggs' production definitely slipped throughout the latter course of last year, whether it was because of the transition in offensive coordinator from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady, I don't know, but he did not have a game with over 100 yards after week 6 last year, right? Like, that's something, all right? And then you look at his last 8 games, 37 catches, 349 yards, 1 touchdown. That's not elite production, and the Bills are paying, for elite production, right? In the postseason, he had 10 catches for 73 yards, right? That's it. He had 3 catches for 21 yards against Kansas City at home in Buffalo. Obviously had that huge drop there in the fourth quarter on the 9 route down the right sideline. So when you're looking at it that way, it's like, man, this is not the same Stefon Diggs production that the Bills were used to seeing. And so when the production dips, the tolerance is also going to dip for everything else that comes with having Stefon Diggs on your team. And all the, if we want to use that word, microaggressions that also come with that. So yeah, that's why then you see this trade happen and you find a team in Houston that says, yeah, look, we've got a young ascending quarterback. We want another guy that can try to help him. And even if Stefon Diggs is not at that elite level, he can still be a productive receiver. So that's where I guess this just comes to its conclusion, where Stefon Diggs goes from Buffalo to Houston.
They better be sure in Houston that they can keep their young ascending quarterback from being dragged down directly or indirectly by the intense competitiveness of Stefon Diggs. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.